Guys, we finally have some pretty exciting news about the iPhone 13 because, number one, we have information about the release date and how it's on track for a September release. Number two, we have information about 120Hz LTPO displays apparently being made by Samsung for the iPhone 13. And number three, most importantly, we have our first look at the smaller notch we could see on this year's iPhone. So there is a lot to cover, and so without further ado, make sure to like and subscribe for the latest Apple news and rumors. And with that being said, let's just tuck in. So let's first cover the report by Wedbush analysts, and basically they say the iPhone 13 should be on track for a September release like we've seen in previous years. Now this isn't exactly surprising news because, number one, unlike last year, Apple is aware of the pandemic and so they can prepare in advance. But also number two, Tim Cook is a logistics guy. He's a supply chain king, so to speak. And so he knows when to get these iPhones out on time, especially since the iPhone is Apple's biggest release. And so yes, I'm sure Apple's going to prepare in advance and hopefully we should not see any delays with this year's iPhone. The next report is also not so surprising, and that is Samsung is making 120Hz LTPO displays for the iPhone 13. So this is something a lot of leakers have already covered, but essentially LTPO is the tech that allows an OLED display to variably refresh from 1Hz to 120Hz, and so ultimately you should see much better battery life when using ProMotion. Now, the tech itself isn't actually new because we have seen this on other Android phones going way back to the Note 20 Ultra that launched back in August. And so you might be wondering, why has it taken Apple so long to implement this? And really it comes down to two things. Number one, Samsung had exclusive rights over this tech for some time, and so only their phones could use it. But now we're seeing other Android manufacturers adopt the same technology from Samsung, like the OnePlus 9 Pro that just got revealed. And so it's time Apple also takes advantage of this technology. But more importantly, making 120Hz LTPO panels on the scale Apple needs is incredibly tough, and it just wasn't possible before because Apple sells a ton of iPhones. They sell way more iPhones than any 120Hz Android phone. And so, thankfully, Samsung now has the capacity to give us LTPO 120Hz displays on the iPhone. And so yes, this does mean that pretty much we should expect the iPhone 13 Pro and Pro Max to include ProMotion. But now let's get into the meat of the video, the biggest story, and that is our potential first look at the smaller notch on the iPhone 13. So obviously I've been very vocal about my thoughts on the smaller notch because we've been hearing about a smaller notch forever now. I remember hearing rumors about the iPhone XS getting a smaller notch, and so hearing it for the fourth year in the row does get a little tiring, and so I've always been in the camp that we won't see a smaller notch this year. Especially since this year is technically an S year, because the iPhone 12s were the big redesign with the flat edges, and usually after a huge redesign, we get, of course, a pretty minor S year. But the iPhone 13 leak world has been suggesting otherwise because apparently we could see a smaller notch, and we've heard this from a lot of credible leakers like Min-Chi Kuo and Maka Takara. But today we have our biggest leak yet because apparently we have images of the front of the iPhone 13, and yeah, you can see it has a smaller notch. Oh, by the way, the information comes from Mac Rumors, and I believe the source that told Mac Rumors was a Greek repair company, iRepair. Now let me remind you, this is not new, because we have heard from John Prosser last year that the iPhone 12 was allegedly getting a smaller notch. That's very similar to this in that we see the earpiece move up, and so Apple can of course make the notch slightly narrower. Now this does seem pretty plausible, I can see it happening, and of course we did have some schematics from John Prosser explaining the technical side and how this is feasible. But at the same time, since we did hear about the iPhone 12 getting a smaller notch in the exact same style, it does kind of make me think that this could be another leak that might not end up being true. Especially since you have to consider Apple has not put the iPhone 13s into mass production. That usually happens in the summer. And so how do they have display panels of the iPhone 13 when it's not in production yet? This could easily be faked or could be from another phone. And so, yeah, I'm not sure about the validity of the information here, and it could really be completely bogus. Obviously, I will be hoping for the best because it would be pretty refreshing to see an iPhone that actually looks different from every iPhone we've seen since the iPhone 10. So yeah, I will gladly welcome this change, but I'm still on the fence about it actually happening, especially since we should be seeing Apple going notchless in 2023. It kind of seems a little redundant to me that Apple goes through the hassle of making the notch ever so slightly smaller for 2 years instead of waiting for the big super cycle to just get rid of the notch as a whole. And do remember that, much like I said earlier, we have seen a lot of leaks like this before for other iPhones in the past, and guess what? We never end up seeing a smaller notch, and so yeah, I'm inclined to believe the smaller notch isn't happening. But tell me in the comments below, would you buy the iPhone 13 if it came with the same notch we've had since 2017? Anyways, thank you for watching. Make sure to like and subscribe. For the latest Apple news and rumors, check out the video in the icon above about the next generation HomePod. And on that note, I'll see you guys in the next one. See ya, peeps.